Hello, everybody. Al Getler here on Facebook Live. Welcome and thank you for joining me tonight. I could not be more thrilled to have a guy with us today from California. He is just a huge inspiration to me, someone who I never dreamed I would have the opportunity to get to know. And I have gotten to know him, and I consider him a good friend. He's a good man. Let me tell you a bit more about this fella. His name is Jay Johnson. Jay is, as you know, one of our premier ventriloquists, born in Lubbock, Texas, grew up in Richardson, Texas. He is a ventriloquist. He is an actor. And I have to emphasize the acting part. We'll talk more about that. You know him from all types of talk show appearances. We know him from Soap, which is one of the things that I think you know him best for. Let me kind of shoot back here to my points here. Soap was a historic television show, and Jay brought that to television, and his character Chuck and Bob. He then went on with not only Bob, but a whole cast of characters as a Tony Award-winning actor on Broadway with his show, The Two and Only. There's Bob and Jay. And this show was so well received for it to be not only received on Broadway, but to get a Tony Award for it. Just absolutely amazing. So really just an incredible career thus far. There's plenty more to go. Wonderfully talented guy. I want to just take you to this video for a second. I think it's a great recap of Jay's career so far, and then we will jump right into talking to Jay Johnson.
And the Tony goes to Jay Johnson, the two and only.
Accepting the award for Jay Johnson, the two and only writer, performer, Jay Johnson.
Thank you very much. I want to personally thank the entire Broadway theater community because they have welcomed my show with such open arms and such a wonderful passion. It made me feel a part of it, and maybe in kind of a vaudevillian, it's nice to have that welcome, and I thank you all for this honor. You figured out all by yourself with that great big brain? Good in the dung. He's criminal. Settle down. Hand on the hiney. I'm sorry. Don't touch my hiney. I'm sorry. I'm a monkey, not your friend. Okay. This changes what I had in mind, I guess. Can we talk? Sure, I'll just hang around. Hang around? That's a monkey joke. Okay. The word itself, ventriloquist, comes from two Latin words, ventre and loquis. Ventre meaning your stomach, loquis meaning to speak. Ventriloquist, the ventriloquist, literally means to speak through your stomach. Because they thought that the early ventriloquists that they saw this voice, they thought the voice actually emanated from a demon that possessed the core of their soul somewhere near their stomach. Roger, that's not good. That's not good. It's not good. It sounds just like me. Oh, I certainly do not. Oh, you certainly do. No, I don't not. They understand me. They don't understand you. They don't understand you. They don't understand me. They don't know what the heck is going on now. Yes, they do. So, you wanna play? What? You wanna play with me? You seem like a nice guy. Yeah, I'd like to play with you. What do you play out here? You wanna play ball? Ball? Yeah. Is that where you throw the ball against the wall and then you hit it with a stick and you keep hitting it and throwing it around until you get tired? Yeah. I don't like that game. That's okay. That's good. We can do another one. Yeah. You want to play a ventriloquist game? Sure. What the heck? Wait. Does it involve hitting a ball in any way? No. Good. Okay. For the Royal Academy of Sciences, Monsieur de la Chapelle concluded that ventriloquism was not a matter of a physical abnormality of the human physiology. And number two, ventriloquism is not a matter of demon possession. I conclude, therefore, that ventriloquism is mental illness.
And we are here tonight to celebrate that mental illness. I am thrilled to have him here with us live from Los Angeles. Jay, go ahead and turn that camera on. Here he is, everybody.
Al, they told us here in Los Angeles that we need to wear masks, and I didn't really have one. It's, not supposed to be hospital mask. All right, that's it. I did this just for you. This is where we were the last time we had dinner, yes?
It is the last place that we had dinner in an amazing place. And I have to tell you, on the plane coming back, I watched the movie entirely because I had only seen half of it on the way to California, and saw the very table basically we sat at. So that was pretty neat.
Yeah, they actually closed completely right now. They're not doing takeouts or anything. I guess they own the building. They can afford to stay around, but yeah, you can't even get takeout right now. So.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to come back and trying the other place. So we'll
absolutely. Musos, we're good.
Good. Well, Jay Johnson, welcome. You are just a powerhouse, man, and I don't need to reminisce. I've told you, but just telling the audience, when I was a young man, starting out in ventriloquism, here comes this hip dude doing stuff I had never seen before. Merv Griffin, my mom was a huge fan of all the talk shows, and I'd see you, and but then when soap came, just incredible. And I'm gonna go back to some of the questions we have. I love this first question that somebody asked, and it's a great one. I'm sorry, I'm just gonna have to go back into Facebook. By the way, folks, let me explain a couple of technical things so you know that I'm not being rude. I'm going to change the camera shot in a second too. I have a bunch of things I have to do during this, so when I'm not looking at the screen, I'm not being rude. I just need to be switching things around. But I'm going to go to your questions here on Facebook. There have been some great ones, and of course they were right on top a moment ago before I closed this, and now they're not. So I will come up with them. But I think essentially the first question, I'll get his name, Jay, and you can start answering it, is somebody wanted to know, of all the puppets you could have used on soap, why did you choose Bob?
Oh, wow. We actually cover that detail in the Two and Only, but it's an interesting story, the fact that I didn't come up with Bob. He was introduced to me on the first day of my show, my position on the show. They had decided that they wanted the character to come from Hawaii. They probably thought they were going to hire an actor and loop the voice. So they went ahead and built this Hawaiian puppet before Chuck was even cast. Mm-hmm. I came in with Squeaky. Squeaky came in, and they just decided Squeaky was too sweet to do the job. So
love Squeaky.
It was Bob, and it wasn't a clear copyright. It was a Renee Zendejas figure that a prop man named Jack Shafton had changed up and kind of painted and then sold to soap. So it was kind of a community project there for a while. But after the show, I had another one made, and the original with Smithsonian, of course. And so the one I worked Broadway with is actually a third generation Bob, which finally worked out a lot of the kinks that were tough.
Yeah, and it's I was going to post the Smithsonian Bob. Now, how often does that? How often that one goes on display at the Smithsonian?
I have no idea and no control. The last I heard, they were building, and maybe they finished it already, a contemporary, they don't call it icons, contemporary memorabilia section. Okay. And he would be in that, which would include things like the ruby red slippers and Oscar trash can, that kind of stuff, So yeah, but I've never seen it. I've seen pictures, but I've never seen the display.
For those of us that suffer from that mental illness you talked about at the end of the clip there, screw the ruby red slippers. We want to see Bob. So take us real quickly on your journey. And as I'm sorry, the gods of Facebook, of course, frowned upon me. My post original from today, where I asked questions, has literally disappeared from my feed. Isn't that usual with our friends at Facebook? But so I may have to ask folks to kind of write in their questions again and go to the live stream.
Great question.
Take us on a quick journey of Jay Johnson from, you're a kid, you're learning event. I want to hear about the Six Flags stuff and how much you learned from doing all that. And a lot of people starting out here on World Events and other pages, they ask about how do I get good? So that's a great story about how to get good.
Yeah, well, people think there's some magic word about any art form getting good at anything. This morning I watched an interview with Shin Lim, who was the America's Got Talent magician that won
Right.
world, whatever. And Shin and I had been on tour with a show called The Unbelievables a couple, 3 years ago. And I know from personal experience that Shin never doesn't have a deck of cards in his hand, and he's never not rehearsing.
Wow.
Even if he's doing spins and moves. And he talked today about how that it was practice and practice and practice and practice and practice, and eventually make it look like it's easy, but it's just not. So
yeah,
everybody has a way to get to great stage performing. Any other shortcut than rehearsal, let me know, because we'll make a fortune. But
yeah, right.
Doing it.
But so you start off in Texas as a how old were you when you started event?
Well, my first professional job when I was 11, I know exactly. I got $10. I did 10 minutes.
Okay.
So my father, that's $1 a minute.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, if I could work 8 hours a day at 11 years old, I was making $100,000. Yeah. So there you go.
Pretty incredible. Yeah. Yeah. So you started at 11. When did you start event? What was your inspiration? How did you start?
It was probably like most. A neighbor had a not Charlie McCarthy, but a Jerry Mahoney, and I wanted it. It wasn't the moving eyes one. And I really would play with it at his house from about 5 years old on until it just wore out. And then found one at my cousin's house one almost Christmas. So yeah. So I really started doing voices and silly stuff when I was 5, and 11 was my first show, because I guess the year before, or when I was 10, I got that Jerry Mahoney. So
now that's the Jerry Mahoney that's in Vent Haven now with the black hair. Is that the one?
that's right. That's right.
Yeah. Good.
And
So
it should be called my mom's puppet, because she made the clothes and she made the wig, and she was really amazing. So that's.
And your mom's birthday was yesterday, so.
Exactly. She was April Fool's.
Happy birthday to mom. Yeah,
absolutely.
So tell us about Six Flags. How did you end up at Six Flags?
Well, between Dallas and Fort Worth is Six Flags for Texas. I was living in Dallas. So the rule was it was a college age person's employment. All the performers were college age. And I was a few years from that. I was a couple of years from that.
Yeah.
But wow, why not? So I auditioned and got the role. And turned out to be the role was, they invented the role for me, actually, I guess. But it was a show that involved the early 60s campus demonstrations that everybody was doing. Mm-hmm. And they had hired a brain trust that had the idea to make their college really famous with all these protests. And it was Squeaky. And they called him JJJ. So JJ comes in, and first of all the girls have to wear bathing suits, and all the have to stay in the dorm. It was like, obviously. So yeah. But we did that year. We did 2 shows a night at the. It's now the Southern Palace. It was the amphitheater then. So I don't know. Maybe that's 2 a night for 16 weeks. I've never added up, but it was a couple of hundred shows, but not.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, is that where you met a young dancer, or was that someplace else?
Oh, that was another show, another time, but later.
Okay.
That next summer, though, working Six Flags over Texas, they built and opened Six Flags over Georgia.
Oh.
And because I'd worked Six Flags there, they asked me to come the next year to Georgia. And that's the year that somebody in the other cast quit, or they fired, and I double casted for 10 shows a day. So that's the year I did 918 shows in a season. So
wow.
And I think that's what did it. I mean, by that time, either I thought this is something I could do for a long time, or I would never want to do it again. But,
well, and I think that's a really important, that's the kind of the lesson I'm drawing out, is that, when you do something like that, Malcolm Gladwell's book, Outliers, you are an outlier, there are other events, that are outliers. that did things like that, and that's kind of the most important thing for any event, young or older, just to keep on performing. That's what
Absolutely.
I say to a lot of events who are starting out, perform, perform, perform. So glad to hear that lesson. I'm going, Annie's on here. So I'm going to read, folks, I'm going to ask you to do a silly thing, and maybe somebody can help me out here. I don't know why, but Facebook has literally wiped out my post promoting this event, and I lost your questions. So I have a question here from David Pitts, who's on here with us. Are you thinking of possibly touring the 2 and Only again after this is all over, meaning the COVID-19 scare?
Oh yeah, I'm always looking for ways to tour the 2 and Only. It's there's nothing planned, there's nothing that works, and I don't know if there's an organized tour. I have the feeling once we're allowed back out of the house, we may want to see a lot of things, so there may be more of a market. But it's a somewhat difficult show to promote and produce, not from a technical standpoint, but from a marketing standpoint. And the fact that you really don't know what you're getting into until you go. So we've never had any problem with people walking out the door going, I didn't get it. But people, I don't get it, to walk in the door to take the chance has always been an issue for the show. So,
Sure.
So we find communities that have a regular subscription, that kind of stuff. So it's not unfortunately the show. Well, fortunately for me, but unfortunately, it's not the show like a Jeff Dunham that you just put his name on a marquee and 100,000 people show up.
Yeah, but all boats rise, and that's a good thing about that. So
I don't know what I do with 100,000 people. I think I don't have a T-shirt shooter. I don't have a So
look, I just again, I think all boats rise with that, and that's the profile that you with the Tony Award winning show, and Jeff and Darcy and Terry Fader, and the fact that Willie Tyler showed up on a show that just got canceled, in its first season, which was terrible, on ABC. The name is escaping me at the moment, but the show is so funny. His dummy gets switched with the kid's dummy, and the kid has, Lester, and he has, it was Dan Payne's figure. It was really good. So, all right, let me get another question. Let's see. That's a message to me from Kevin Driscoll about press releases. So there you go. Thank you very much. Mike Palmer's with us. So Chuck Lyons is asking, Jay, will you be at the convention this year?
If we have a convention, I'm planning on attending. I assume we are. I mean, I don't think anybody can make definite plans.
Nope.
Mark said the other day that for sure it was going on, and they waived the increase in fees, I guess.
Yep. Now, I spoke to Mark the other day. He's, we're all feeling the same way. We're gonna just push forward and make it happen. And on a sad note, without our buddy Pete Michaels, who of course, we all are just so shocked by his passing away.
And so soon after Alan Seamock. I mean, this is just It just seems we're just getting over Jimmy's death when Alan dies, and now Pete. It's like too much at once. Let's spread it out.
It is, and the connection between Alan and my Alan Seamock and Pete Michaels was really deep. That's in the York crowd. So we do wish again our best to Stacy and Pete Jr. and Diana. And there is a post somewhere on this feed on World Events. Get the address, send them a card, shower that love. It's really important. So and again, it's just, we hope that we have a convention. We hope that Stacy and Pete and Diana are there, and I think Betty's planning on coming, Betty Nelson. So
yeah, I'm pretty sure she is, if allowed.
If allowed, right? And I know we're going to do something special for all three of us.
What I'm hearing, some of the long-term plans of some of the boutique shows that I was doing in the summer were happening in June. Some were happening in April, but they canceled everything that was happening in April at this little theater. Like maybe the first or second week of February. They said nothing in April, and now they've said nothing in June. So it's till then. So it's going to be interesting.
It is, and I do think, in fact, I think Damian James here. Let me read his question here. My question regarding Jay thinks about the future of Ventriloquist's performance after this, meaning with the current situation that we're in. I think Damian's at right over the border. in Canada. And then he also says, do you think online is the new normal for our art?
Well, online is certainly very friendly to our art form. However, I've seen a lot of people that are just, I still think you have to do your material. I don't think you just post something and say, oh, everybody's watching out there, so I might as well post this.
Right.
And it's not thought out, and it's not, just do a couple of takes before you put one on the air, I would say.
Yeah.
Know that it'll be there forever. And when you get better, the one that you should have rehearsed a little bit more on is still going to be there.
Right.
And it tends to judge the entire art form when they go, well, okay.
Yeah, I agree. And I say that a lot on world events. Post a lot, get out. We're here to learn and be, I think it's just the greatest group of people. I love, all the pages are great. Conrad Hartz, I always thank Conrad for this page because he's the guy that does it, organizes it, polices it.
Yes,
so we're just lucky to have it. So I'm going to read a few more things here. Of course, I mentioned Andy.
Al, just getting back to the question, what's going to happen afterwards? I feel like if everybody gears up and theaters open and bars get open and things like that, which I don't know, how do you restart anything, much less an economy? But I think people will want to be going out more. I think they'll want to see more entertainment. So it puts us kind of back to where we were. If something is really, really too wonderful for you not to get out of your house and go to, you're going to go. So
yeah, absolutely.
Good stuff. Market.
Yeah, I have to agree. It's funny. Just as we're talking on my phone here, Jonathan Getler is a New York ventriloquist. He has done an amazing series called, if you haven't seen it yet, Jay, Trillo and Suede. It's
I don't see it yet. Yeah.
I just started watching it today. I felt terrible because I've known Jonathan for 100 years, but tune in. Everybody just tune in. It just came up. He just posted another episode. So sorry, off to the shoot there. Austin Phillips is here. Austin, I talked to him earlier today, says hello. David Pitts is here. Yep. Kevin Driscoll says, hey, Jay, saw your show. You inspired me to always dress like my puppet. So there you go. Lisa Paul's watching. Don, let me make sure I get Don's name right. John Pudliner, I think I have that right. What was the name of the game show Jay and Bob were hosts of?
It was called So You Think You Got Troubles, and it was produced by Stu Billett, and oh man, who used to host You Bet Your Life? Not You Bet Your Life, but This Is Your Life, Al.
No.
Why is his name? He was a mentor of mine. I can't think of it.
Yeah, not Ludden. Wasn't Alan?
No.
No.
This is crazy.
Yeah. Someone will be on Google and they'll tell us in the feed, Jay.
Yeah, but he was a wonderful, wonderful man and had a great time. It was a show that was way ahead of its time. It was a show making fun of the shows that we have standard now, Yeah. What we were doing is making fun of the Dr. Phil show. There just wasn't a Dr. Phil show at that point,
Yeah.
So at one point it was a game show. At one point it was a comedy interview. At one point it was kind of a fortune-telling show. I don't know. Tried to do much. We had a good time.
Are those tapes around still? Do you know? Are they?
There's a few on YouTube. Stu Billett, and I still talk to. He also created People's Court, so he's.
Oh, there you go. Now I'd love to see you and Bob on People's Court. That would be a gift.
Because we were shooting next to the same set for People's Court back when, we actually used that set for a piece. I'm trying to think. It was just a spoof. Remember the American Express commercial where you said, the guy would get mad about picking it up or what? I don't know. There was some American Express commercial we spoofed using that.
Okay.
I was being sued over my American Express and didn't leave them without it. If it was better, I'd.
That's great. Let me go back to some questions here. Let's see. Dennis, you say it froze up, buddy. I'm watching it on my phone, so we're not freezing up. You might want to check your Wi-Fi. Lawrence Harris says, love you on soap. Tom Ladshaw joined us. Hi there, Tom.
Hey, Tom. Did you see that he and Annie did with the I can't say it, compare head?
I did, yeah, the head. Yeah, really good. Yeah. Folks, if you haven't seen the latest event, I'm sorry, Jake, I cut you off.
I said I love those things that they're doing because as many times as I've been to the museum, I rarely had Tom Ladshaw or anybody, Lisa or anybody, say that's what this is. It's really interesting. So,
They don't
yeah.
let us play with the puppets when we go there. So
Yeah, well,
I know.
yeah.
I know. Oh, look at that. Dale Brown woke up from his nap, Jay. He's watching us tonight. So Dale joined us. Yeah.
Bill Brown is here.
Yeah.
Be
Yeah, he naps 23 and a half hours a day, and he just woke
Yeah,
up
well,
with this. So big
you
deal.
got it. You got it. You know, you got it.
So
Thank
Austin,
goodness.
you said from earlier on the phone the question. Ask your question again, Austin Phillips, because I don't see it here. Lawrence Harris says, "Are you working on any new characters?"
You know, there's always, in the back of your mind, there's always some character. Usually, I have to work from a deadline, that's what happened to the Two and Only. I kept thinking about a show, and finally somebody said, "When are you going to do it?" And I said, "Well, as soon as they get a theater and tell me to go." And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
So a lot of characters I'm thinking about, and how would I need them? And if suddenly they go, "Wow, this is a show that I'd be perfect," I would probably, 24/7 and woodshed it. But I don't have any female characters, and that's somebody's been telling me that. Why don't you have any girl figures? I've always felt like my falsetto with Bob was too much of a female voice.
Yeah.
It would have to be like more of a crone lady, an older lady.
Sure.
So I've never developed one, but in my mind, there's this lounge singer, that's very bad. And I look at my piano over here, and I've even done some experience where you shoot past the piano. And if you're doing this, you could actually be doing this. So it looks like I could play the piano and she could sing.
That's great.
And she's just that lounge diva, that's just awful.
Yeah, with the cigarette voice.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
How are you? Good to see you,
Yeah.
love.
I was having fun, but I'm not that kind. Yeah.
It's a great question. Sue Lang, thank you for coming back with your question. She had asked earlier, I love the character Grandpa Geezer. What happened to him? You were great together.
Grandpa Geezer is one of the great untold stories of the world. Just before Soap, literally maybe that spring before I started the show that fall, I was hired by Hood Dairy Company, which is up in Boston. They had come up with something called frozen yogurt. No one ever heard of it before. And they thought this was going to be the next pet rock. Everybody's going to want it. And eventually they did. And it was called Frogurt. And they wanted a character that would be kind of their Pillsbury Doughboy. So they came to me, just a guy that had done some talk shows and just new in town, and said, what would you do? So I designed that character and conceived it and built it and sold it to them. And the idea was that I would go around and do shows wherever they needed me.
Right.
So just as we're ready to start that, I got the figure built, everything was approved, and had a big budget to do that. And just as that happened, I got Soap. And I went to them and I said, look, I know I've got a contract, and if you say I'm on the road tomorrow, I don't go to the studio. But if you'll give me, it was 13 shows at that point. Nobody's guaranteed anymore. So I said, if 13 shows, no matter what happens, I'll be much more valuable to you as an entertainer than I would be before. So why don't you just let me do this for 6 months? And they said, fantastic. So I did Soap, stayed the entire time doing that. And by the time I was ready to do anything for Hood, they paid me my contract and said, Frogurt's just not doing that well. So everybody had frozen yogurt, and it wasn't their exclusive thing. So, but I love Grandpa Geezer. I changed his name and added a mechanism so he would pull up his paper and look at it. So he's got his glasses on so he could read the paper. And it really borrowed the idea of Charlie Weaver.
Yeah.
Letters. Do you remember Charlie Weaver?
Yeah.
He always had that in his pocket. I thought it's just right there in the newspaper. He could just talk about that. So,
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
great character.
Well, so you got to drag him out someday, Jay.
I was just thinking about that. There's some guys sitting in the room and they're just kind of visual stuff. But one day I would love to, for a world event, just open up the prop closet in the office and some of the like suitcases. I'm not even sure what's in there. I mean, I know major things, but through the years I've collected things that were stuff. And so maybe that's a great time. We should do that.
Yeah, I think that would be awesome because we're going to be in this for a little while. So maybe in a few weeks we'll drag that out. And I'm dying to see the Frogurt character too.
Oh, really cute. He's really cute. And I'll even dig up all the drawings and the sketches that I did for him before he was sculpted. And the weird thing, though, you know, people have no imagination in the advertising business sometimes. And I was so proud of this puppet, Farmer Kroger, that the minute he was complete enough and I could do some mechanism, I ran over to the agency over in Beverly Hills and I said, look at this. Just look at this. Wow. Well, it was just unpainted fiberglass at that point.
Huh.
And they kind of go, and one guy said, well, he's kind of white. And I knew that was it. So I just took it, I put it away. I said, thank you very much. You know, absolutely, we're still working on it. I thought they'd be so amazed by the mechanism. They didn't know. They just knew it was just too pale.
Well, last time I had vanilla frozen yogurt, it was kind of pale. But
See, I'm surprised they didn't say perfect. You know, can you make a chocolate? You know, that would have been.
It's just so funny. Gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, as you know, as a New Englander now, I'm not originally, but as anybody that worked with Hood, which is, you know, I can't have my morning coffee without Hood half and half. So I want to see that.
They were great people.
Oh yeah, great company. They're still around. So Ken McGrath, thank you so much for writing your questions again. He wanted to know, and I previewed this one for you. What's that?
Before you leave Farmer Kroger, I just want to say there's a tag to the story to give me my salary that I was due for this tour. They said, yeah, but we paid for those puppets on the Farmer Kroger. We paid for the puppets, so send us the puppets. And I said, okay, so I did. So they sat in the Hood Dairy warehouse for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. I was on tour with Shields and Yarnell, and Robert Shields was a toy collector. He loved toys and particularly Vint figures. And I'm telling him the story about Hood. And he goes, let's get him. Let's get him. Let's buy him back. And I said, well, you know, I don't know. He said, no, make the call. And he said, there's 2 of them? I said, yeah, I had to back up. He said, all right, whatever you offer them, offer it for both of them, and I'll take one of them, and we'll both pay half price. And that's exactly what we did. So the only other Farmer Kroger is with Robert. And,
I feel like I need to run out of the room right now and go tell Nancy, because I forgot about the Shields and Yarnell part of it. And
they were.
I kind of ruined the punchline of the whole thing too, because I was just talking to her today about these figures, and I can't wait to see them. So, all right, what's that?
Yeah, question.
Yeah, jump into Kenneth's questions. So I warned you about this first question, or previewed this with you. What's the funniest thing Harry the Hat ever did in real life?
Oh wow, the funniest thing that Harry the Hat. Oh God, there's so many Harry Anderson stories here at the Hats. Maybe. The funniest thing, the weirdest thing is an easy one to come by, but the funniest thing is perhaps one Halloween while he was working at Warner Brothers, they built him a Batman suit, a really good Batman suit, and he loved it. He kept it every Halloween, he had it. But the first year he had it, he was at Warner Brothers coming out of the studio with it on, trying to go home, and there was somebody trying to cross the road at a pedestrian crossing, you know. And they couldn't have traffic. So he stood out in front of the traffic as Batman in front of Warner Brothers and said, stop, and let the person cross. And then just walked on.
That is hysterical.
Yeah. The other.
Stole the idea, does Broadway on the crosswalks now. So there you go. Stole the whole thing.
Yeah. So he was that. But
and I know Harry Anderson, dear friend of yours, we lost. How long is it now?
2 years.
2 years. Yeah.
And we're coming up on the April 15th. So.
Yep. And you couldn't be with us last year. You guys went to Ireland and had a memorial service for Harry.
Yeah, we had story about that. Harry and I, with our wives, had been to Ireland like 2 years before this, just before he died, and fresh in our minds. And he wanted his ashes put in Ireland, where he dearly loved. So Elizabeth, his wife, decided that we would go back to Inisheer, which is a little island we had spent a day on.
Yeah, I know it. Yeah.
No cars, just buggies, right?
Yep.
So we thought, wow, let's go back and let's put his ashes somewhere in that island that we will always remember. And maybe we could find the same buggy guy that we had before. It'd be great. So about 10 of us in the family, and we got there, and we couldn't find the guy originally. His name was Michael. His horse was Bob. I would never forget this. So we get another guy, and we're going down and going down and going down. And finally, he realizes why we're there, and he gets very sober, very sober, and very, oh, I'm so sorry. And I said, we really were looking for Michael and his horse Bob. And he went, oh yeah, Michael and Bob. I said, are they still are they still working? Are they still doing anything? He said, oh, he just passed. And I went, oh my God. And my reaction, he looked at me and went, no, they just passed. That was it. It just went down. That was and it went from Charlie Chaplin, oh my God, to Harry was.
I think Harry planned that one for you, Jay.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So that may be the funniest thing he ever did. Yeah.
Yeah.
In real life. That's hysterical. That's hysterical. We have to compare Ireland stories sometimes.
Oh, I love it. Don't you love it there? God,
I love it. Remind me to tell you, follow my finger. I'll tell you that one. So Ken also asks, he has some good questions. I'm going to read them all. What was it like working with Billy Crystal?
All right. The only one I knew on soap at the time was Billy Crystal. I mean, even all of them were famous actors, but maybe from New York. But Billy had been on The Tonight Show, and he had done his Muhammad Ali, and so I knew him as a young comic and everything. And so we were sort of in the same subset. You know, the cast was pretty much older, and there was the kids that were all younger. And so, you know, it was just like two guys eventually competing for their camera time, you know. So
right.
We always had this kind of healthy kind of relationship that was. But for the first season, we would talk and we wrote a scene, and he said, this would be fun for us to do. And we wrote the scene where Bob is locked in the refrigerator and
oh my gosh,
everything talk, right?
Yeah.
So we worked on that, and we beat it out, and then we had the idea, and we had it all done, and we approached Susan with it, and Susan said, great, she put in the show. And I think Billy said, we should get writer's credit. And I said, man, just do the, I don't want to do the stuff. I don't care about the credit at that point. And they said, oh no, Susan, all of it's Susan. So we said, okay. And Billy never wrote anything more for them again.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I think that was kind of sad because there was so much more that all of us could have done. You know?
That bit was just from beginning to end. The minute that kitchen door opens and you walk in, and that's where you're acting. I mean, I don't need to blow smoke up your skirt there, Mr. Johnson, but that's where the acting part of you just, you know, blows me away. You're as every bit an actor as you are a ventriloquist, my friend.
Well, thank you. I always loved to do both. In high school, you know, it was always like, man, I love to act, but I sure do like to do the act. And when soap came along and I got to do both, it was heaven.
And then Broken Badges, you know, another
fun time.
In fact, we're going to talk about one of the dummies you're going to show us in a minute was on one of the episodes of one of the shows that I loved. My mom loved you, by the way. So. Oh well. Yeah.
No, that's why we look alike.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Finally, from Ken, and then I'm gonna maybe have you show us a couple of things you have there. What did you learn from doing the off-Broadway show, or from doing the Broadway show? I guess really.
Well, ventriloquism, no matter what, is a live medium. It's a live art form. There are certain things that happen live that no matter how well you film it and how great your shot is, it's just not the same. Because part of ventriloquism is being there of the moment and going, wow, wait a minute, I'm now confused as to who's who. And is that happening live? Is that you really doing it? And it really is. That's the joy.
Yeah.
So what I learned on Broadway was that there are never two audiences. I'd kind of come to that conclusion over my Six Flags thing. But doing the same thing every night, 8 times a week, no two audiences are ever the same. And to have the privilege of working for a statistically unique group of people that night was a big responsibility, because there are people who come back, but statistically, you'll never see those people again. They will never come together again. This is a unique time. And if you don't be in the moment and at the time and present with them, they shouldn't see, oh, he's done that before. Oh, he's probably does that a million times. If they think that, then they might as well have gone to a movie. You know?
Sure. Yeah.
So what I learned on Broadway was you always have to be there. You know, there's no filming it and taking the day off. And there's never a time that you're not promoting it. You know, oh God, we were sold out last night. Terrific. We have tonight, tomorrow, the next night, the next night, the next night. So you can't just say, well, we're a hit, unless you're Hamilton, and then you have to turn people away. But
yeah. Is there a ventriloquist in Hamilton? I don't think so. I can't get tickets. I don't know. I don't know. There could be. But you know, I
Afterward-
love what you just said, and this is what I love about your brain. Statistically, you'll never get the same people in the same room. That is
Ever.
so true. And statistically, too, not statistically, qualitatively, they'll never be in the same mood they were in that night when they were together.
Exactly. And if you don't understand that and get with them, my wife gets into me all the time because less now because it seems to be so repetitive. But when I was on the road doing clubs, I had CNN on all the time.
Right.
Not for any other reason other than if something gets talked about 4 or 5 times,
Right.
audience knows that.
Yes.
So if it were to come up, like, you know, something happens, somebody yells out something or something falls, and you have a reference that was just on television that day, it's golden, you know.
Yeah.
So
No.
very unique, and they need to be, you need to play on those moments that happen. Don't plan on the fact that you're just going to ad lib, but when you're ready to let those things happen, and it's just magic. Yeah, magic.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, I am looking. I'm going to give you a question. Jimmy V, I am going to get you for your comment. He said it's a great group except for Al, and I just interviewed him last night. So I will. I'm going to get him for that. He's part of that Dale Brown group. While you're, you want to take it around the other? What's that?
Free for all and against Getler, or free for all and against Dale
It's
Brown?
always. It's okay. That's all right. It's that, what happens when you put yourself out there? I'll tell you off camera about the phone call I got the other night, which was maybe I did tell you, but yeah, it's just crazy. Anyway, while you're taking us to the other side of the table,
Yes.
I'm going to ask you a question that you can answer while you're moving around. Bill Joyce wants to know, in performance, how much time do you give each character? Do you have kind of a set formula, or is that just something that just happens organically?
Well, that's a great question. For me, it kind of happens organically. You know, Bob always had the most time in my nightclub just because I had the most material with him.
Right.
Some characters you don't want to have a character longer than they've used. How do I say this? You want a character to only have the time that's perfect for them. And
Right.
if that's 2 minutes and you get a golden 2 minutes, that's perfect.
Right.
Minutes might be awful with this. So
Right.
Anyway, all right,
Yeah.
I'm turning it around. Here it is.
Yep.
This is Grandma. She's my fortune teller. Back when I reconstructed her while my wife was doing Sophisticated Ladies every night at the theater, and she's just great.
Oh, that's awesome.
Wait. If I have a dime, let's see if I do. Yeah, got a dime. It would have originally. Hello there. Okay, I dropped my dime. Here it is.
This makes for a great video, Jay. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes. Well, see, there. Okay, there. That's it. All right. Cut, and here we go with the dime. The dime had a string on it, and I could pull it right back up. So here she is. Oh, you know what?
What?
Watch this.
Oh, I lost you. There you are.
She's working.
There
So
she
she
is.
does 25, I think, different motions, and then a fortune comes out down here. So.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. All right. My
Well,
camera works.
sidebar, if you ever need other help with that, that's Austin Phillips works on those too. Automaton.
Well, there you go. I
Yeah.
had such a great time. I know nothing about it, but it's just a cam going around there.
Yeah.
Pinocchio,
Oh,
it's obviously a two-scale real-life Pinocchio that Renee Zedhouse made. Renee is the one who
Renee made
Bob.
that. Really?
Yeah, and my wife had that commissioned for me for a birthday one year.
Oh,
And,
lovely.
He's doing great. The only thing is his tie was like royal blue, and it's just over the years faded out, but
Yeah.
he's still good. And there's some sort of Axtell thing. I don't know. It's a monkey.
That's
I
a
don't know.
monkey.
That is a monkey.
I bet she has a monkey joke in him. So here's the figure we were just talking about.
Yeah, this is Clown. And Clown was the witness to the murder that I committed as a character named Noel Abbott in a movie called Riddle for Puppets. That was part of the Mrs. Columbo series. Anyway, he was the silent witness. And eventually what I have to do to silence him is I have to cut the wire that makes his mouth move. Yeah.
Now, Bob
this is-
also, just a quick trivia thing, Bob also ended up almost as a witness for the state for the death of one of the Campbells, correct?
Oh, yeah. Originally, we joined soap because I was going to be the killer of Peter.
Yeah.
And Bob was going to turn state's evidence and say,
That's
yeah, I saw him do it. I was there. Anyway, this is This is John Henry, and John Henry is sort of my homage to Harry the Hat. You can see
Yeah.
that was a fan that we had at his funeral, Second Line in New Orleans.
Yeah.
And John Henry, I think, was the figure of Lauren Campbell, Bob Campbell, not related.
Right.
And somehow Harry got him, and we used to. I think he got that for his birthday one time, and then he gave it to me for my birthday, and then a couple of years later, I gave it to him for his birthday. And so when I turned 60, I think I got it back, and that's John Henry. And he spits, and he does a lot of things. He's really
And who built him? Do you know?
I don't know, and I'm sure that Tom Ladshaw would probably know.
Tom or one of the figure makers out there.
Yeah,
Tyler might be with us, or Austin, or somebody. I'll go down the list in a minute. A lot of comments come in.
Lauren Campbell was the ventriloquist, and he was mainly a magician, I think. And
Oh, wow.
and this guy, this is another Renee creation, and my friend Pat Duffy gave me that T-shirt as a joke, and so I put it on. Bob, see, I'm backlit here from the living room, but obviously a Renee face.
Yes.
Right? And the body. What's significant about this? This is where my dogs
That's
stay.
where Harry sleeps. Yep.
Yeah. They're hanging there now. So.
Oh, look at that. They're being so quiet today.
Well, yeah, I'm surprised. There's Boo. Hey, Boo. And the little one is named Harry. So there. You know what I feel like? I feel like Edward R. Murrow,
Yeah. That's the way it was.
Anyway, so there was a soap script that said, and I know what it was. I actually came up with this idea. I said it was time when everybody was roller skating. That was a big deal.
Mm.
And so I said, it'd be funny if Chuck and Bob are on roller skates. It'd be funny. My idea was we would be sitting behind the table at the household like this. Bob and I would be talking, and he would say, "Come on, Chuck, come on." I said, "I don't know, it's a little dangerous." "No, we got to go. You'll be fine. Just look at me. Think of all the girls. Great, great, great." And we stand up, and Bob has roller skates. I've got skates, and we skate out. That was the scene. Well, it comes back from the rewrites, and here's the scene. Chuck skates into the kitchen. Jody, played by Billy Crystal, skates into the kitchen. Bob skates into the kitchen. They all parlay for a little bit. Bob says, "Let's go." And Jody says, "Oh, let's play Crack the Whip." And for this moment, Chuck goes, "Yeah." And they grab Bob, and he skates out the door. And I went, "That'd be a good trick. It'd be good. How do we can do it?" And they went, "Well, it was your idea. What do you mean you can't do it?" So I went to Renee, and I said, "Renee, how would you do this?" And he said, "Well, I've got a walking body. And what would happen if you put skates on it? It'd probably be even easier." So he loaned me, or rented to them, that body, which is a walking body. And we put skates on it and got that scene shot. And we figured out exactly how far Bob would go if pushed just right before he cratered first. And there was a prop man with blankets and pillows and everything.
Yep.
Just in the moment, they covered it up.
That's great.
So when Renee passed away, I got it, that little guy who sat in his studio for a long time. Oh, and this right here. This is obviously people send me, and I collect monkeys all the time.
Yes.
Yeah, from Darwin. But this is really special. This is something that Jeffrey Golick made. This is a great little. Let me get him here. Here he is.
Yeah.
Let me get him. I just love this guy so much. He's got this wonderful.
He's got a mech on him right there. Yeah.
The eyes are gravity, and I've never quite found a way to hold him really well, but here it is. And it goes, oh. Yeah. Hey.
That's great.
I don't care. I know you don't. But.
Who built that?
This is Jeffrey Golick's work.
Oh, wow.
Well, Jeffrey, hey, that little. He was yet little when I met him.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I think he's really the closest thing to Jocko I'll ever have. Right?
It's amazing. What a talented guy he is too. He's teaching the young vents with Lynn Trefsker and I this year. We did it last year, and I'm so excited about it because he's such a talented.
Oh yeah, nice guy, figure maker, and what gets me is the guys coming up today and the girls coming up today are just so well versed in all of it. They make great puppets. They do good material. They work. Well, so good for
and
them.
I think the thing that really say about that is, don't you hate them? Anyway, so, all All right, Austin Phillips, he sent this question. If Jay could have dinner with one of the old great vents, great question, who would it be and what would you talk about?
Oh, wow. Well, if I had my druthers, it would be Arthur Prince. Was died just before I was born, probably, or maybe overlapped. I don't know. And I didn't know about him until very late in my career. I finally found a book by his son called Reflections in the Glass Eye. And I think if anything affected my one-man show, that book did.
Oh, wow.
Because, the story was that he died on stage. And Tom, you can probably tell me how close this is. But the way I understand it, he died on stage and they rushed him to the hospital or wherever they would do. But they left his act. They left Sailor Jim just right there on stage.
Right.
As he's in the casket, everybody's going, wow, they dressed him in his show wardrobe. And they said, doesn't look right, doesn't look right. And they realized they had never seen him in that wardrobe without Sailor Jim at his side.
Huh.
And, where's Sailor Jim? So they ran back to the theater and got, the prop man, and they'd been pushed back in the prop closet, and they got Sailor Jim, fluffed him up, put him in the casket, and they were buried together. So I think that's a story. But the sensitivity of ventriloquism and the heart really was about Arthur Prince. And I would like to, have dinner with him and see if that's just something I've come to myself or he really was the guy that I know. It'd be fun to find out.
Well, great question, Austin. Thank you very much. Yeah, you talk about these young people today. I talked to Austin today. He was showing me a little Marshall figure. He was making a tuxedo. It's like, oh, stop it, please. Oh, hey, look, here's Jimmy V again. Al Getler always dresses like his puppet. Problem is, his puppet is a hobo. Oh, I'll tell you. Great. Kenny Cross says Ralph something. Ralph Edwards. Ralph Edwards. That's what they were saying. Is that?
I really heard Ralph Edwards. Thank you.
Oh, nice job. Two in the net there. Kenny and Bill Joyce together. So let's see here. Do you have a 1-900 number? Dano Bratton Sr. Thank you. Let's see.
1-800-CALL-AL.
Nick Paulo's watching. Vinny Ewert's watching here. Seeing the prop closet would be right. You're right, Chuck. Gary Hunter. Gary, one of those guys that we all know and love. Has been working.
And retired. He retired.
He retired at about, and he got off that ship just at the right time too.
Just
Yeah. So Gary writes, thanks for being an inspiration for all of us ventriloquists. You helped bring ventriloquism back into the mainstream with soap. Yes, you did. Bob Rumba, can we see your Disney animation cell of Charlie and W.C. Fields?
Great idea. Now you have to come with me, and we have to go to the back. And I swore I wasn't going to take into the office, so everybody kind of closed their eyes.
Let's a preview. Let's just make this a preview.
That's a preview.
Yeah.
So here it is. Okay, no office here. It's just a mess.
Yeah.
But right. No, that's not the one. All right, hang on. Yeah, still with me.
Hang on. I'm going to be looking for questions while you're doing that.
Yeah, another question.
Thomas Morgan says Jay Johnson is awesome. Ken says thank you. Thomas Morgan, love Bobby, is my favorite vent figure. Conrad Hart says, hey, you know who joined us? The man, the legend of television, Bert Dubrow, was with us tonight. So that's
great.
He's the man. Bob was off the chain from Thomas Morgan. Oh, look, Dale Brown. Well, for sure, Getler never seen an audience a second time. That's great. Thank you.
Now this is the animation cell I was talking about.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's gorgeous. Oh,
1939.
Yeah.
And of course, that's Charlie sitting on a big bass fiddle with W.C. Fields and his cigar. And this was the movie was not particularly successful, so it's one of the first times they ever sold cells or gave them away or whatever.
Yeah.
So this is hand inked and hand painted and 1939. But when it was taken to Disney, right around in here, there was a little patch of paint that had chipped off the back. And as you know, animation cells are painted on the back.
Yeah.
So at the time, you could go over to Disney and say, I've got this cell. They would look up and say, okay, that's the number something paint. They repaint it and thank you very much.
Oh my gosh.
So they took it over and they said, yeah, repaint it. Then you go to get it and they say, we'd like you to sell this to us.
Ah.
They go, no, because you don't understand. It's exactly everything I want to be. I'm a comedian, a ventriloquist, a musician, an actor. It turns out they said, well, don't ever sell it because it's Disney dirty art. Take a look at the cigar and the
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, yeah. So they
Yeah,
didn't want
yeah.
that getting out. So I could never sell it, and I could never tell that it has that phallus in it. So you
And
never
what was
saw
the
it?
name what was the cartoon feature that was a part of?
Oh yeah, it was called Mother Goose Goes to Hollywood.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Mother Goose Goes to Hollywood. Right.
Yeah. The idea was all the Hollywood stars were toys in a sort of pre-Toy Story, actually, is what it was.
Yeah, it's an amazing study too. I'm not going to just spend 30 seconds on it. The Disney Bergen relationship. Tyler Ellis was nice enough to have me as a co kind of steward of the Edgar Bergen fan page, and we are going to do a thing on the Disney Bergen relationship with a guy named David Wilson, who has a lot of the documents from Bergen. Very
Oh wow.
Yeah. So watch for that one. But David Pitt says, I agree with Al on Jay's acting. Yeah, it's just it's absolutely great. Lee Cornell joined us. Chuck Lyons is always nice. We love you, Al. I used to think Chuck Lyons was nice to me because he wanted to, do my funeral, but now he's retired. So, Thomas Morgan, great question. He might have missed the beginning of it. Just go over again. Who created Bob, and maybe a story about Renee?
Sure. Renee Zendejas did the original mold. And it's funny because Renee and Jerry Lane at one point were partners, and they had a company called Vinterprises. Mm-hmm. And they created this character, which is basically the little face over there in the walking body, that Bob face. Mm-hmm. And so they were putting that out as just a stock figure. It was pricey at the time, but it was good. And then they had a falling out, and I think Jerry took some of the business and Renee took some of the business. Renee kept the name, Enterprises, and kept all the engineered molds.
Okay. Yeah.
So Bob was a standard puppet, and that's when Jack Shafton got the contract himself to build what was going to be Bob. Okay. He went to Renee, changed it all up so it looked like his own, and sold it to Soap. So gotcha. It really was Renee's creation with kind of makeup done by Jack Shafton, who was
Gotcha. And you kept mentioning Susan before. I'm going to test my brain. Susan Harris, is that right?
Yeah, the writer of Soap Creative.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I don't know why that came to me just now, but yeah. Steve Axtell joined us. Steve's done an amazing job on getting out there with video. Steve, we appreciate you doing that, and it really is great. Steve Petras joined us. So Tom, we asked that question. Steve says he visited Renee's studio with you at one point. So there you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Joe Self, who was Renee's partner in shows, was given the studio and everything in it after Renee passed away. And he didn't even go in there, I don't think, for a year.
Wow.
He just couldn't. It was like a tomb. So the first time he went in, he invited Steve Axtell, myself, Brian, Simon, and Marge, and our wives. And it was like going back in time because I'd spent so many hours in the studio, and we found a bottle of paint that was special paint, and it just said Bob on it, and it was obviously Renee's handwriting. So
wow,
it was quite a thing. But yeah, he sold the studio and got all the stuff out, so that can't happen anymore. We took
was that a champagne kind of event? Did you bring a special bottle with you and?
Well, we didn't drink there, but we went to the smokehouse and certainly did.
There you go. Yeah.
Renee was all about cosmopolitan, so we had a couple of
Yep. Thomas Morgan wants to know if you have a favorite ventriloquist. I think you said Arthur Prince was probably somebody you wanted to meet. I don't know if that's your favorite ventriloquist. Were you a Bergen guy, a Winchell guy? What was how that we all kind of choose those territories?
Well, that's like saying what's your favorite singer if you're a singer, and you tend to like the singer that you think you wanted to be or be closer to, I'd like to be this guy. But you love all of them. There's not a ventriloquist that has performed and gotten, successful that I don't see really greatness in. Yeah. And not ones who haven't gotten great or not. I'm just saying that's the ones that we've seen. But I think Jimmy was the one. I think Jimmy was my favorite.
Jimmy, right to my, I don't know if I can see that in the shot there. His albums there. Of course, Jimmy always talked about Edgar, and I believe, I love studying the commercial aspect of Bergen's career. So.
Oh yeah, because you're the advertising guy.
Yeah.
But Jimmy just had this, and I've talked about this and thought about it so much since his passing, how much he really did mean to me and influence what I did. Danny was just my kind of guy, and that's what I wanted Squeaky to be. I wanted Bob to be Danny,
Yeah.
Because he wasn't he wasn't mean. He wasn't cruel. He was precocious. It's hard to say, you know, he was a little more precocious than Charlie McCarthy, a little different than Jerry Mahoney. It was that relationship. And I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, zing, 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 kind of a feel to him. Yeah,
Yeah.
one of my favorite routines actually on this album is the Army routine. I don't know if you remember that from the instant ventriloquism. Let's get these men out of the hot sun and all this. The banter was just great. It was great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's see here. I'm going to run through here quick. Oh, Steve, great question or a great thing to talk about. What is your pre-show warm-up? So Steve Axtell is giving a little inside tip there. And we'll probably look to wrap this up. And, you know, we've been at this with you for an hour, so we'll be easy on you, let you off soon here. But what is your pre-show warm-up routine?
Well, you know, I think being a ventriloquist, it's very easy to go over your lines because you've got both sides, you know, so you know their time. Not like an actor that has to space himself out. So I think about the routine. I think about what jokes I would like to get in for this particular crowd. You know, if it's a corporate crowd, what's the corporate jokes that I've written? Make sure those are there. I pace. I love to pace. I like my time to be my own. And so I find that if you're pacing, people don't tend to stop and converse with you.
Right.
You know, you just go high and you keep walking and you just kind of do it. And it just centers me. So that and a little bit of, if I'm not feeling quite vocally, I do some old Gerald Tate warm-ups and, you know, but pacing is the main thing. It keeps me on, keeps the energy going.
Yeah. I know a lot of us have eaten dinners.
I have to have a coin in my pocket, and I have to have, you know, the right socks on and those kind of things.
There you go. So you're a baseball player of ventriloquism.
Little bit. You
got some superstition going on.
Just work with a different bat. That's all.
There you go. Exactly. Right. I have a joke on stage.
Oh! Before you go, I found this too, and I wanted to show. I hope it's not backwards, but when we opened off Broadway, the show that had just won the Tony was Avenue Q, and it is.
No, it's backwards to you. It's forward to us. We see it.
Okay. This is. I mean, believe it or not, this was back in 2004. We didn't get to Broadway. This is a fax. And it's from the people over at Avenue Q, and everybody signed it, and they wished me best wishes and all this stuff. But isn't that nice? I mean, there's Broadway.
That is awesome. That is absolutely awesome. It's interesting. I just found out about a puppetry podcast. Who's the guy that built? Do you remember the name of the guy that built the puppets? I'll have to put it out there.
Lyons, yeah. He's the one that really kind of organized this. Rick Lyons is the guy.
Yeah. And there's the podcast. He's on it, and another guy's. It's pretty incredible. I'll send it to you. It's amazing.
He's incredible talent, and for some reason we got to meet way back when. So I actually sort of knew him when we were opening. And one of the things I wish, and there's so many stories that I know I need to shut up, but when we were off Broadway and they were on Broadway, there was a character, and still is, in Avenue Q called Lucy the Slut. And it was, at that time, acted by Stephanie Zambrosio. And she sent a dirty picture of herself, the puppet, to Bob backstage. And, full on breast shot. And said, "Hey, baby," something like this. We're in town. And I thought it was so funny. I had Bob send her pictures back. And there was this letter campaign going back and forth between the two puppets. Then what happens is Lucy says she's really in love with Squeaky and not Bob. So it's caused a problem with Bob. So Bob, I think the end of it was Bob, we set up a shot where he's holding a Louis Slugger bat, a small bat. Like this. And the caption was, "I don't play baseball and this is not a bat." But we kept saying, "Listen, you guys, pick up on this. We'll go out on dates, for God's sake." And they thought, "No, it's too weird."
Yes, we finally got our PG-13 rating of tonight's show. That's great. Good.
I could tell it for an X audience if you'd like, but I won't.
Oh yeah, we'll do that late at night. Did you do you happen to save those correspondence? Because that should go to Venthaven someday. That's great stuff.
They are. I'm surprised I found this. It's one of the great things about being quarantined is you can go through all their stuff.
That's what I'm doing. Driving my wife. I told you today, driving my wife insane. Every time I go across the street to the bar and I come back with something else.
But the fact that I found these, I'm encouraged to find the rest of the stuff, because there was a pile from off Broadway and there's a pile from Broadway and then there's a pile from all the stuff when we were traveling and stuff. So it's hard to find.
Yeah, it's great, man. You've got so much history. Oh, that's a great question.
Uh-oh.
Rebecca Goosens, I hope I said Goosens, whatever. I get hope. Rebecca, forgive me. She had a great question for you earlier today. She said, "Why didn't you respond to my friendship request yet?"
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. You know, what happens is I never look at friend requests for some reason. And somebody will say, they go, really? So I occasionally go down and I go, oh, I know that person. So I bet I get to you, you know, and particularly now when I got
now, Rebecca. Yes, Rebecca Goosens. So Rebecca,
okay.
I told you I'd ask the question, Rebecca, and I did it.
There
So
you go.
Yeah.
Rebecca, I look for it. Usually if I see a guy with a puppet, I know he's one of mine or her.
Steve Axtell says he has an album from that visit. So I'd love to see that, Steve.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Next time I'm out that way, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Thank you Jay for the shows. That's Keith Mossenberg. Yeah. So you know what? I've come, I think, to the bottom of our questions so far. Let me just go back up again. But yeah, so lots of great questions, Jay. You know, this has been just an amazing visit. I hope we can go into the office maybe in a couple of weeks and do that. You
do that.
Community. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Nothing else would be like good inventory. Take good inventory. So
exactly. Yeah.
Sorry. What? Is it time to do the thing with Al? We're just finishing, Bob. Ah, crap. I'm so sorry. Bob was right there. Getting ready.
The problem is, I told him 8 o'clock.
What did you say? I'll tell him.
I told him 8 o'clock. I told him 8.
He told you 8 o'clock. Scumbag! No, he's great. He's fine. Just the timing he doesn't know. Next time, Bob will.
Bob and I have kind of a contentious. It's kind of like the Dale Brown, you know, relationship. It's yeah.
Here's the thing. I think about the Dale Brown and I think of the Bob Campbell. You're the common denominator in this feud, you know. So yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, we're getting some thanks from folks here. Jimmy V says thank you. Damian James says thank you. Linda Mason, thank you. Christy B, Jimmy's wife, who by the way is the first lady of ventriloquism. She actually climbed upstairs after having knee surgery last night to run the camera for the tour of his collection. So,
oh my God.
Yeah, she's the best.
Can I have Sandy call her?
Yeah, I want to point out that Nancy's in the other room. Just as I was closing the door, she said, "Tell Jay I said hi," and that was it.
Oh wait, what is that? Is that a? Oh, that's a little Tony
behind you there.
Oh, look at that. Huh. And that's an award from. Oh, there you go. Huh.
That's a little Tony Award there, isn't it? Wow. Yeah.
Suddenly, on my back, and I had
to that was good. I like how you worked that in.
I have a picture of Jimmy Nelson holding that trophy.
Oh, do you really?
He came out to do an interview with Tom Ladshaw and Brian and Rich, so came over.
You know, you're talking about going through the barn. I didn't plan on showing this at all either, but I found a videotape out going through stuff, and this made me cry. It's a videotape that Jimmy actually put together for me.
Oh my God.
And said he would send it to me. And August 16th, 2000. Hello, Al. Here's the tape I promised you. Best to you and your family, Jimmy Nelson. So, I mean, how you couldn't have a sweeter kind of memory than having a videotape. And it's not only is it his spots, he's got some Winchell stuff on there. He's got a little bit of everything. So pretty great, pretty neat.
Well, I miss him very, very much, and feel the weight of his absence very much. So,
you know, I spoke to him December before his passing away. He was so strong on the phone. I used to call him on his birthday, and you know, he's the one that picked up the phone, not Betty this time. And I think about that because it was on the speakerphone in my car. My daughter was sitting next to me. She was 15 at the time, and we hung up the phone. And I said, I don't think you understand the magnitude of what that is. My hero. That is the man that I spent, you know, every day upstairs in the room, you know, listening to the record. And I know you and I both feel the same way as a lot of us do. So
absolutely. A lot.
Yeah, Jay, you know, I love you like a brother, pal. I appreciate this time you spent with us here today. I hope you will schedule that office inventory with us. I
think it'd be great because I used to keep every puppet in its own suitcase. And then when I started traveling, I needed space. And now everything's off the table, you know, when they started making, it has to be 50 pounds.
Yeah.
So I put some of the older puppets in the heavier cases, and I really don't know what's in there, so we should have to do it. So
Well,
let's do it.
the shame of it all is I was due to be out there at the end of the month to go. What's the place we want to go to again, Frank? What is it?
Musso Franks.
Musso Franks. Yeah. So I
The
was
other
going
thing-
to be out there again, and I was going to call you and get that scheduled. So
Yeah,
someday,
we'll do it.
my
We'll do it.
client will reschedule. So we'll
Good. Good. And hopefully, it's been there 120 years. Maybe it can weather this little setback.
I hope so.
Yeah,
I
me
hope
too.
so. And then on that note, actually, folks, to all of you, please stay safe. Please stay home.
Yes.
Please wash
please
your
stay.
hands. I live on this little community that I live in here, and we just closed our little general grocery store. There he is. Yeah. First responders that are out there, please give them a high five. And know that nurses and doctors and all those folks. But I tried to work with the White House to get ventriloquists deemed as essential. Still waiting to hear from my Senator Bernie Sanders.
If we carried a gun, if we carried a gun, we're essential. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. My puppet. Oh, well, then. Come on out.
Yeah.
No political stuff.
No political stuff. All right, my friend. Thank you so much. And
Great talk.
we'll see you soon. All right.
Love
All
to
right,
everybody.
Take care.
And
All right. Good night, folks. Thanks for joining us. Take care.
Bye-bye, pal.
You can hang there, Jay. You're good.
You're good? Okay.
Yeah. I just knocked the live stream off. So perfect. Happy with that?
That was fun. That was too much fun.
Yeah, it really was. I'm just waiting. It's weird, but I'm waiting for it to end right here. There it goes. So we just ended. Boom.
Oh, is there like a delay?
There's a delay. Yeah, there's a sometimes there's a significant delay. Sometimes there's a short delay. But at the end of the day, I did some things different, and I hardwired a better laptop than actually my desktop. And I was Mac for so many years, and ended up now being a PC. So I'm never PC, but I mean, PC. I'm going to hit the record.